listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to Overgrow the Radio. We had a little bit of a mic issue there. I think my co-host wants a revolution. She's over there like getting down to it. So it's been a crazy busy week this week in Colorado, in Colorado Springs in particularly. My co-host, Elisa, is still on trial. Unjustly. It's pretty evident at this point. We're going to get into it more later. You know, that today it's funny, the last couple of days, it's come to the point to where the judge and jury are both laughing at the prosecution, and they're questioning. They are just scraping and clawing, trying to get something, anything, to save this case. So we're going to jump into that here in just a minute. I'm joined by my talented, wonderful, smart co-host.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. It's been a busy week for myself as well, so not court-wise. Cross my fingers and,
As
knock
we all
on
do.
wood. Yes. But yes, thank you. I'm glad to be here and just supporting Overgrow the Radio while Lisa's has some really, a lot of things going on. So.
What do you?
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right on. And you just got back from a vacation. You went to the beach.
Oh, yeah, I did. I've been over to the East Coast before, but more New York style and Washington. So going to Florida was quite a treat for me. I loved
Florida.
it.
I used to live there, and as much, I have my little hidden spots there that I still like, but the overall feel of Florida scares me.
You go there to retire for sure.
Yeah. I mean, just their cannabis
parts.
laws is enough to keep me away. I had a friend, I lived there right out of high school, and I had a friend who actually literally lost his car because he had a couple stems on his floorboard. The police have the right
Holy
there
moly.
to, seize your property if they find any cannabis at all.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. I think Cali is a better beach state for me.
Well, thank goodness I just brought my vaporizer with me. So.
Right. Nice. I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Anyway, so we've got Elisa. I was there. I've been there all week. As I said, we're going to talk about that more with our second guest, Mr. Etzen. We've got a great show tonight. More with our about to call here in just a few minutes our first guest, presidential candidate Gary Johnson, Governor Gary Johnson, or former governor, I should say. That's going to be exciting. He is actually a proponent of ours and an adversary of the drug war, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think as most of Americans nowadays, he's in a position of authority, and he has the ability to sway opinions. Hopefully we can work with him and get him or the likes of him, his views into office. So we're going to get on that in a minute. There's a couple things in the news that I ran across, and before I get too far, I got to mention we do have another trial down in the Springs, Bob Kraus, coming up, and Bob's been on the show a few times. We're going to have him back on the 21st. His trial is the 25th. On the 21st, he'll be going back to court yet again. He was today had a motions hearing. The state, it always kills me when they call it the people versus Kraus or the people versus Kappelman, because it's about 10% of the people. So I like to say the state. So we'll say the state is trying to suppress testimony from Dr. Robert Melamede, who is really, in my personal opinion, one of the only experts we have in the field of cannabis study.
Well, that, and being from Colorado too, he knows, more of what's going on here in our state. So he is, a representative of us.
Well,
so
absolutely,
sure.
and he's right there in Colorado Springs. So I know, for a fact that Bob Kraus has become friends with him and works with him pretty closely. Mm-hmm. So, what a better person to have testify to the treatment of Mr. Kraus.
Oh, hands down, one of the best people, right?
Absolutely. So I pulled a couple stories from the news. Down in the Springs, we live in a bit of a conservative community, and this story may have went through a few different agencies, but I ran across a story this week talking about how here in the state our crime rates have jumped dramatically in the last year. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
big deal, how the cannabis industry is evil and we bring all this crime in, you know, yada yada, the same mainstream jabble, if you will. And, you know, if you really step back and look at this article, it makes no sense. I think the big point for me, we address this in another group I work with, but, you know, the first foundation point for me is the fact that really this is a brand new industry, essentially. 2 years ago, after the Ogden memo, is really when Colorado's MMJ industry took off.
Right.
With that, you know, it is a commodity, and I loathe saying this. I hate to ever compare it to these two things. But in a sense, we have to sort of compare it to alcohol and pharmaceuticals, where it's a sought-after commodity. Any business that sells that commodity is going to be a target for crime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they're not taking that into account, that being a booming industry like it is over the last few years, that it has absolutely been a cause and effect thing there.
Right.
The other side of that is they're talking, you know, they compare the last 2 years, and they talk how in the last year it's really jumped, you know, from the year before is the big point of the article. And it's funny how that directly correlates with the time the banks dropped all the dispensaries. As many people know, here in Colorado, dispensaries have no banks.
Right.
They all have to deal in cash, and as that battle was going on, it was very public. It was all over the media. So, I mean, in my eyes, anyone who has a criminal mind is sitting there looking at that as an opportunity to do that.
Right.
And I'm going to jump in and welcome our second guest real quick here and let him throw in a comment on that.
Well, I figured once you start talking crime rates and things like that, I had to jump in. But, yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, that most criminals would think it's an easy target. We have a unfortunate situation right now where our economy sucks. People out of work, so there are more people that need to figure out a way to earn a living. And from what they often see on TV portrayed by the media, it's a bunch of bumbling idiots running these medical marijuana centers that are full of weed. And lo and behold, though, when they break in, they find that there's cameras out the bejesus, that the marijuana is in safes, if it's there at all, that there's often no money. And one of the things that is, you know, the crime rate came out, and it's mainly due to robberies. Because if you saw, other things actually dropped, but the press didn't report the drop in other things.
Right.
And the robberies, you know, example, one of the robberies was somebody stole the tip jar.
Nice.
Oh,
Kid you
that's
not,
great.
$8.
Yeah. Pennies.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Well, no, but I mean, not a good thing.
Right.
But it's interesting
targeting
that
the medical marijuana industry and making us look like that the crime rate is going up.
yeah,
We're
that
gonna have-
becomes qualified as a robbery.
Right.
How many
When it's
subways
not
lost their
just
tip jar that
theft.
didn't get
Right.
reported as?
Well, why is it when Kohl's, you know, somebody steals a
guys.
shirt from what?
Hey,
Hold your guys' thought. We
gotta
gotta call
Gary
the governor.
Johnson.
Oh, okay. We got to
Go
call.
He
for
is
it if
calling
he's
me,
ready.
Okay.
so we should call him.
We should pick that up.
Call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging.
This is Jason. We're going to call you right back as I hang up. Okay. Very good.
All right.
Okay.
All
and we're
right, now
back
we're
on.
going to try that again. When you have a governor calling you, you probably should hang up and call him back, huh?
Oh yeah.
Or
There we
get off
go.
the line.
Try again.
Hi, this is Gary.
Hey Gary, you're here with Stickman and Laura and Warren Edson on iCannabis Radio. How are you tonight?
Great. Thank you all for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I believe you're familiar with our station. We run your spot here once in a while.
Well, and I got to be on with you guys before.
You have. I admire you a lot. I personally endorse you, and that's not the station. That's me, of course. But I admire your courage and your stance on a lot of things. Obviously, we have a vested interest in your stance on drug policy, cannabis in particular. But we're going to digress from that and let you introduce yourself, as I like to do with all my guests, and really start with your background. I like folks to know who we're talking to.
Well, so I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974. Me, and actually grew that business to employ over 1,000 people in Albuquerque. I'm also an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. I remain an athlete. Competitive athlete at 59 years old is a bit of an oxymoron, but I'll be competing this summer in my 9th Leadville 100-mile mountain bike race. So
Very nice.
I've done Ironman Hawaii 4 times. I've climbed Mount Everest. I've gotten to climb to the top of Mount Everest.
That I got to stop you
That's
there and
incredible.
say I'm very jealous. I've hiked the Appalachian Trail from end to end, and I live here in Colorado, so obviously Leadville and the 14ers here are things I do. Everest is a life goal for me at some point in my life. I think I might want to give it a shot. So kudos.
Well, good. Well, good for you. And growing up in New Mexico, climbing 14ers in Colorado, climbing 14ers in Colorado in the winter was really good. Some great adventures doing that. And I've competed in many events in Colorado, and my son lives in Denver. So I am very, very. I think Colorado is the most beautiful state in the entire country, and I do live in northern New Mexico. I live just north of Taos. I live there because the skiing there is as good as anywhere on the planet, including anywhere in Colorado, and that is one of my passions. I'm the former 2-term governor of New Mexico. I had never been elected to public office prior to running for governor of New Mexico. I think I made a really positive difference as governor of New Mexico. I think that positive difference had to do with the fact that I looked at issues first and politics last. And I like to point out that in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat, New Mexico, I got reelected as a Republican for a second term. And I really made a name for myself when it came to dollars and cents. I think I was the penny pinchiest governor of any state. I vetoed a lot of legislation while I was governor of New Mexico, which really simply was about how are we spending our tax dollars and are we spending them as wisely as we might. And I think what's significant is having vetoed as much legislation as I did in a state that is 2-to-1 Democrat, that I should have gotten reelected speaks volumes to the fact that people really do appreciate good stewardship of tax dollars. Now, I'm the Libertarian nominee for President of the United States. I'm going to be one of 3 candidates on the ballot in all 50 states. You're probably familiar with the other 2. That would be Obama and Romney. But I'm the only candidate among the 3 that wants to not bomb. I do not want to bomb Iran. I'm the only one out of 3 that wants to get out of Afghanistan tomorrow. Bring the troops home tomorrow. I'm the only candidate that is really genuinely talking about marriage equality, believing that it is a constitutionally guaranteed right, similar to the civil rights in the 60s. I'm the only candidate that wants to end the drug wars. I'm the only candidate that wants to and is promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. Why is a balanced budget important? Well, if we don't do it, here's the effect that it's going to have on our lives. A Coca-Cola right now, 16-ounce Coke that costs you $1.50 or $2 is going to cost you $100 if we don't get this budget under control.
Sure.
That's going to be the ramification of continuing to borrow and spend and print money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we are spending. It's going to be runaway inflation, and it's not going to be anything that gets announced, but it's going to be the result of what it is that we're doing. And that will be some really ugly times for America. We can prevent that, but we need to do it now. We need to fix it now. And
Sure.
that's going to involve a mutual sacrifice on all of our parts.
Well,
So back to my being governor of New Mexico, I think most important is equality, that we all treat each other equally, that we all have an equal shot at the American dream.
Absolutely. I want to ask you to digress just for 1 second. And, I think you hit on a couple points there that could tie in together, in my opinion, and I want to get your opinion on it. Balancing the budget. Our military spending, in my personal opinion, is out of control. You mentioned previously, before that you plan to pull the troops out of these wars that we're in. I guess it's a two-part question. First being, how easy do you feel that would be? My personal opinion is I feel we should spend more, or concentrate our military forces more at home and not interfere as much as we do abroad. That kind of leading into the second question. Do you think in doing so, in ending these unjust wars, that will balance the budget, or will be a big chunk of balancing the budget?
Well, it's about a third of the budget equation, but we need to cut. I am proposing a 43% reduction in military spending. A 43% reduction in we need to cut spending by $1.4 trillion a year. When it comes to military spending, a 43% reduction in military spending would be approximately $400 billion a year. And here's how a reduction in military spending goes down, or happens, is a reduction in nuclear warheads from 2,300 to 500. We don't need to blow up the planet 10 times. Fewer times will do. We need to reduce our military footprint on the planet. That would be the bases that we have throughout the world. That would be the military personnel that we have on the ground in Europe, in Japan, in South Korea, in Great Britain. That would be the military in uniform. It would be the civilian support staff that goes along with that. It would be extricating ourselves from all of the current military engagements that we are currently engaged in. It would be research and development, and it would be intelligence. Those are the components, the 7 components that make up military spending.
Absolutely, and I think you just basically answered, how much money that's going to save our country. Thank you for showing common sense on that issue. We could hit on every issue. I mean, equal rights is something I'd love to talk about real quick before we talk about the drug war a little bit. My other half was part of the We Are Women March here in Colorado, and there absolutely is, whether people choose to realize it or not, in legislative terms, there is a war on women in our country. We see legislation all the time trying to be pushed through to take away rights of ladies. I have 2 female co-hosts and a lot of women in my life that, I have to stand up for those rights. What's your stance on the issues going on there?
Well, if you take abortion as clearly a woman's rights issue, I absolutely fundamentally support a woman's right to choose. To say anything otherwise, in my opinion, is just wrong. Difficult decision when it comes to abortion, absolutely unbelievably difficult decision, but a decision that only should be borne by the woman that is involved.
Absolutely.
And yes, I would agree that there is a war on women.
Thank you. There's a lot of ladies in my life that will be happy to hear you say that. So let's jump right in. It takes, as I said sort of in the intro, it takes a lot of courage for any of us to stand up against the drug war, even with the polls showing, that the strong majority of our population at least sees fault in our drug policy and a need for a shift. That being said, to start from the beginning again, what opened your eyes, and initially, have you always had this stance towards drug policy, or was there a specific, time or event that changed this for you?
Well, growing up, I smoked marijuana. That is something that I did. And smoking marijuana for me was a much better alternative than drinking. I don't drink today, I don't smoke pot today, but based on my experience, marijuana is much safer than alcohol. Based on my own experience, I'm one of 100 million Americans who have smoked marijuana. I don't consider myself a criminal, and yet under the laws of this country, I have engaged in criminal activity smoking marijuana. Well, I don't fundamentally, I don't think that 100 million Americans belong behind bars. And so fundamentally, I come at this from the standpoint of what we're doing isn't right. And then when I look at the issue and see that half of law enforcement, half the courts, and half the prisons, all the money that we spend in all those areas are devoted to drug crime. And what are we getting for that? That we're arresting 1.8 million people a year in this country on drug-related crime, and that we have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world, 2.3 million people. And to what end? I have come to the conclusion that 90% of the drug problem is prohibition-related, not use-related. That is not to discount the problems with use and abuse, but that should be the focus. It is never going to be legal to smoke pot, become impaired, and get behind the wheel of a car or do harm to others, similar to alcohol. But that ought to be the criteria. So I am really encouraged by the ballot initiative in Colorado to regulate marijuana like alcohol. I think Colorado has the opportunity here to be the first of 50 dominoes to fall when it comes to rational drug policy nationwide. Well, and I really believe that Colorado has this opportunity, and I'm really thinking it is going to happen in November. So part of the reason I'm on here tonight is just to applaud everyone that's listening to your station. And you mentioned it earlier, 50% of Americans right now support legalizing marijuana, if not more. What's the reason for it? It's because we're talking about it in unprecedented conversations, in unprecedented numbers.
Sure.
And the more we talk about it, the better the issue does. So thanks for an opportunity to be on here to talk about it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just to let you know, I know you had spoken with Jason before from the station here. He probably mentioned that he was one of the authors of our hemp bill here, the phyto remediation bill. The governor actually signed that Monday night, so we're now the first state in the United States legally allowed to grow industrial hemp in any form, at least under state law. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're
terrific.
Definitely knocking down the dominoes. I know we're running a little short on time here. I guess want to point out too, what you're talking about. I've actually, you may not see us on screen here, but I'm wearing a tie. I'm not really that guy. I've been in court all week with our co-host, my co-host. She is facing felony possession and cultivation charges here in El Paso County, Colorado Springs. She is my caregiver as well, and provides everything you could ever ask for. And the state came in and lumped. Well, let me digress. The state, there was a broken meter, and that triggers questions. So they summoned in I believe $7 million Homeland Security plane from the Canadian border to do a flyover, and decided not to do anything. Well, people threw a fit once that got out to the media, so they came in and arrested Elisa, charged her with this, claiming she was over her plant count and they didn't find recommendations. Well, when they went into her grow, as it was shown in court today, her patient's records box was left on the table, and what happened was the police moved it back behind a heater in a corner, and claimed they never found it. So that just just to show you, that is where we're at with this drug war. These are the absurd things that we are trying in our courts, that we're spending taxpayer money on. In the course of this week, I watched a child molester walk right out the door And here we are 5 days in, or 5 days in now to Elisa's trial, and still with no end, you know. So, Mr. Johnson,
I completely concur. The fact that we think we're getting better when the reality is it's not getting better at all. There are still all these arrests happening, and tens of millions of Americans have been subject to the criminal justice system because of our marijuana laws. In the last 40 years, there have been 45 million arrests on drug-related crime.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, when 60% of our prison population is non-violent drug offenders, we need to take a serious look at what we're doing. You know, in my opinion, I know we've got just a couple more minutes here. I'm trying to watch the clock for you. You know, we're feeding a private prison industry. You know, I see, for me personally, the drug war all ties into so much. With this passage of the industrial hemp bill, I see this as a huge step. You know, what we have to do is find a replacement industry. We know how stockholders are. They have to have their money somewhere. We can't keep going down this road of throwing our citizens in prison and having countries like China calling us out for human rights. You know, I think the direction we need to go is we need to look for things like hemp, where we can produce, you know, instantly create millions of jobs and produce, you know, go back to producing 85% of what we use from hemp. So kudos on what you're doing again, and you know, definitely keep up the great work, and you've got our support here at Overgrow the Radio. We'd love to get you back on a couple times before the election, get you some more votes.
Great. I'll hold you to that promise, and thank you all for your activism, and great being with you all.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you later.
Real quick, can you give folks your website so they can find you and get more information?
Yeah, GaryJohnson2012.com, and I would love for you all to do me a favor, and that would be to look at our latest ad that we came out with yesterday, and that would be YouTube, and that would be Gary Johnson. How about you becoming a libertarian? Just take a look at it and tell me what you all think.
Right
Nice.
on, sir. All right.
Is there actually a time where you're going to be here in Colorado? Or a date?
I don't have my schedule to be able to tell you when that's going to be, but absolutely, I am in and out of Colorado all the time.
Great. Yeah,
we'll
we
get
would
you
love
back
to
in.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
we would love to know, so we, as a community, can come out and support you and actually be there physically with you to support you.
Well, terrific,
Great.
terrific. I'll hold you to that one, too.
Absolutely, sir.
All right.
Well, enjoy the rest of your
Thank
evening.
you all very much.
Thank
all right, thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.
We'll be right back here on Overgrow the Radio.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
Always be kind to each other.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is J-Dub.
And this is Dust with the Weed Pimp. We're up here at iCannabis Radio coming at you to let you know that Weed Pimp Screen Printing is ready for your full screen printing needs. And we are located at 62A Mount View Lane. Make sure while you're there, you check out our brand new oil rigs, the Green Monster Oil Rigs by Dragon Dave.
While you're out in town, pay attention for the WP1 advertising trailer. Please get on board with that and get your message across to the public.
That's 8 foot tall by 16-foot long trailer pulled all around Colorado Springs, the first of its kind, so make sure you jump on that.
And more importantly, on this trailer will be the ability for you to register to vote. That's important this year.
If you're interested in any advertising on the trailer or any custom screen printing, please get a hold of Dustin at 719-684-5793
and J-Dub at 913-484-4550.
you're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
And we're back on Overgrow the Radio. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
We're joined by our next guest who, well, he did a show for a while, but he's around here a lot. Mr. Warren Edson of...
Hey, sorry, guys. We're trying to deal with a technical issue here that, yeah.
I was going to string
Damn
out
clinic.
Yeah, right.
Great golf course, but, golf event, but, and we're going to get into their BHO, but that buzzing's driving me nuts.
That's an air conditioner.
Oh, yeah, I do hear that.
Oh, is that just the ventilation
I have
system?
a microphone, too.
Yeah.
That's the air conditioner.
Well,
but it didn't used to do that.
It's
sucking more power out of the
something is
building.
taxing the electrical in the... Never mind.
There's bugs crawling around somewhere.
No, we just got a lot of cameras. We now have an MMC in the building. It's no joke. It's no secret either. They're across the hall.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's not so overwhelming like it could be. So.
Well, and it's convenient too. If I leave the Springs and forget meds.
True.
I walk 50 foot.
It's
great.
Convenient. For
so I want you to introduce yourself because you have been in medical cannabis law for years.
And without getting into the other issues, I was a normal person starting in high school and did some activist work for them in college and decided to go to law school. And in the process of law school, I interned with some great attorneys that were connected with Normal. And, went to University of Denver here in Denver, got out, and became a public defender for a brief period of time, then a private attorney. And to his misfortune and my luck, I handled a case for the Reverend Michael DeMang back in the day, like mid-'90s. And he was one of the first religious activists in this state. And we actually had some good luck for a while. And won a couple cases, and that just got me going. And it's been a wild, 20 years almost is the scary part. But
nice. We're going to do a little overview before you get out of here of our co-host case. We're not going to get into much detail yet. But something that's been argued a lot over the last week as I've been sitting in that little room is Amendment 20.
Yeah.
Article 18... everything's brought up. So
Article 18, Section 14.
Exactly.
Well, and I'll cut to the chase.
It
was published that I was the freaking author of that. No. And other people have said I've said that. No. Please pull the transcripts from the Department of Health hearing, whatever time that was. We sat in the pretty building on campus. Wasn't said, I was one of the organizers of that. That's what I've always said. Went back and forth with a bunch of attorneys, just like 64 was written, just like 70 was written. Back in the day, it went amongst our emails. We debated it and went from there. But Amendment 20 was a crazy ride in and of itself. For many of your listeners that don't know from out of state, it was Stigman, do you know, it was the weirdest thing in terms of we did all this work, we got it on the ballot, we got close to the election when all of a sudden Secretary of State Vicki Buckley, said, foul. They don't have enough valid signatures, which you saw them do to Mason and his crew.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Funny how
No
that
surprise.
happens.
Well, that's why
Quite a
Mason was
few, too.
prepped.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's why Mason was prepped. He knew it was going to happen again.
Sure.
And at that time, though, and I actually put it towards internet and that kind of media. At that point, it was buried, and she won, and it went to district court, and there weren't enough signatures. And the funny part was it was on the ballot because they'd already printed it, but it didn't count. Okay? And so there was an election where medical marijuana was on the ballot and didn't count. Another funny thing was it was the first year we used the computer system to count votes, and the computer didn't turn it off. So until midnight, the day of the election, the numbers friggin' were there.
Nice.
And okay, granted, they were tainted by the fact that the general public knew that it didn't count because it had been all over the press everywhere. I mean, when does anything get on the ballot and then disappear? But yeah, it was there. You know, the numbers were really positive, and it sat there. Defeat, wah, wah, crying our beer. Months go by, and whenever I say this in public, people accuse me of nasty stuff, and I'll try not to sound happy. But at some point, a tragedy did happen, and I mean that sincerely because people's families were affected.
Sure.
You know, Secretary of State Buckley died, even though she was in her 40s. And when they were going through her stuff in the closet, lo and behold, were a bunch of signatures. Valid ones.
Wow.
In boxes.
Interesting.
More than 20,000.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if that was her or if that came from higher up.
And it probably did. And that's the thing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, she...
So, state
like literally in her closet. I'm not making...
hid all these signatures in a closet.
They were in her closet. And this isn't any secret. This has been talked about before. It was in the friggin' Denver Post. They were in her closet, you know, and it was somewhere between 19 and 29,000 signatures. You know, the Amendment 20 had been shot down over 3, 4, 5,000 signatures.
Yeah.
So at that point, holy smokes, you know, we got lawsuits pending, things going left and right. All of a sudden, Americans for Medical Rights, who at that point was the primary funder of what little was going on in the country, swooped in again and was like, what happened? Meetings were held, court cases were pending when a deal was struck because, you know, history. We went from a Republican regime to Romer.
Sure.
The like good Romer, his dad. But I didn't say that. But it's now, you know, on.
Yeah, well,
so the good Romer and I, you know, the other Romer doesn't mean he's bad, but I hung out with him. Anyway, the good Romer came in and said, hey, whatever, we got a Democratic Secretary of State because Vicky was a Republican, and cut a deal, said you're just on the next ballot. Sorry for the pain. You know, that's the deal. You don't have to collect signatures. We don't bitch. You don't have attorney's fees. It was
But why was that all just shoved in a closet instead of shredded? Like almost as if it was...
She wanted someone to find
wanted
it.
it to find it eventually.
It wasn't that long. The thing is, it was really quick. And I mean, at that point...
No time.
I mean, there wasn't... Everything...
It's just always a
Her
conspiracy.
office was like an
against
MMC.
cannabis.
It was all camera.
Absolutely.
I mean, if she was in a state building, it was camera to the bejesus.
Right.
How do you carry out 20 to 30,000? I mean, that's 4 or 5 boxes.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That
you
takes
get
a couple
you get a
of
hefty
people to
person
haul out.
to wear a trench coat. So I want.
But long story short, it passed. It passed with over 57%, and we. And things happened, as you know, nothing happened for 8 years, 7 years, and then all of a sudden, and frankly, it was timed around Obama, whether you love him, hate him, and whatever he's done since. Obama got elected, and things boomed.
Yeah,
But
with the Ogden memo, that's when our boom time started. Which
at least investors got interested, and then things went.
Yeah,
because we
money
had
was a little safe.
7 to
safe.
15 of the original caregiver people who then were caregivers for lots of people.
Sure.
Because we had nothing prohibited for profit, unlike any other state.
Well, and that also was when, you know, investors could come in from other states and invest in Colorado, and now we don't have that anymore.
Because
So
what?
you know.
And why would they think they'd ever be banned? in the United States of America. That's
Right,
never
exactly.
freaking happened
Right.
before. Okay.
Well, and with you know, a lot of people don't know about all our regulations here. We had another layer after Amendment 2012-84 dash. You know, there's branches. With that,
well, what happened? We started making money, and the government needed to regulate it.
Oh, absolutely.
And in part, okay, you know, everybody hates me for saying these kind of things, but in part, there was a concept that we needed to protect ourselves from the feds by making sure that interstate commerce wasn't going on,
Sure.
which resulted in all these crazy-ass rules, like no out-of-state investment,
Right.
like a 2-year residency requirement,
Sure.
like only residents can be patients. All, I mean,
Very strict.
if
Very
you have a
strict.
prescription for Vicodin, people would think it outrageous that if you went to New Jersey, you couldn't fulfill your prescription.
Right. Well, I've had a relative that actually moved out of state and was still getting like 10 pills a day.
Oh.
And
Sure.
having the prescription mailed
Shipped.
to her,
Sure.
or the actual
Absolutely.
physical prescription,
Oh.
she could just refill it, you know, in the state that
It's
she was
perfectly
at. So,
legal through the mail.
yeah, exactly. So,
Not-
I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's off the record, but it is
No, it is
sort
it's
of a legal question.
Is on the record.
this is the radio.
This
hello.
is Overgrow. It's
The
always off the
internet
record.
is
Right.
forever.
This
So.
is official.
I remind my clients of that forever.
right.
Always. The internet is forever.
This is the digital record.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I've witnessed a lot this week is the talk about the difference between having an affirmative defense, which is what Amendment 20 originally established.
No, not really, but keep going.
Okay. And a criminal exemption.
Okay. Because, see, Amendment 20 was supposed to create a criminal exemption for the folks who actually got the state card. But then it was supposed to create an affirmative defense for the folks who didn't want to deal with that.
Sure.
Okay? For whatever reason. As long as they had their doctor's rec, they could have affirmative defense. The problem was not enough common... And that sounds wrong. Everyday Joe does not know what the hell an affirmative defense means. It means they can arrest you.
Yes.
You have to bond out of jail. And if you can't, you sit in jail.
Absolutely.
And then you have to get an attorney or a public defender. And then you have a pretrial hearing about 3 weeks before the trial, which is normally about 6 to 9 months after you're friggin' arrested. And at that pretrial hearing, you have the burden of showing that you have the affirmative defense, okay? Normally that means you've exhausted all other remedies, okay? And that
you've
this is
blown
the
your
only...
savings.
Yeah. Yeah. At least in Amendment 20's case, the affirmative defense was created by merely the doctor's rec, okay?
Sure.
You didn't have to go through the traditional affirmative defense steps. Then, if you win the affirmative defense, it doesn't mean the case goes away. It means that the burden shifts to the prosecution to disprove your affirmative defense to the jury. Okay? So, that is confusing as hell right now. Imagine being a jury sitting through days of trial to then say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Everything you've heard about innocent until proving it, no, we're going to twist that on its head and introduce this idea of an affirmative defense. So now think through that they were supposed to disprove this that was supposed... oh man, it is good
Very
because it puts
convoluted.
pressure on the DAs to be like, oh man, what the hell? I don't want
Right.
to deal with this. Make this go
Let's
away.
just throw it out.
Sure.
But it's a hard burden for them to meet. But if you end up going to trial, I have done more than one. It is a convoluted mess. I mean, that is partly what I won't speak for Rob. I was concerned about in the Clendening case was just if we got into an affirmative defense situation, the potential penalties some really nice ladies faced if we lost, because
Sure.
you know, we were looking at many years in a not nice jail for people who should never be anywhere near a jail and thought their behavior was legal.
Well, and as I've talked about, we'll give an overview at the top of the hour about Elise's case. We're not going to get into a lot of details because I'm sure the wonderful DAs that I've made friends with in the elevator this week might be listening.
Well, and you're sitting here with a jerk defense attorney who's going to tell you to shut the F up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, love him, hate him, the Lord knows what Rob's doing, but he wins a hell of a lot of trials, so let him finish his magical
Absolutely.
whatever
and he
before
is
we get
doing
in his way.
very well. He absolutely is. We'll give him props right there. That being said, I want to take a break here real quick, and then I want to come back and kind of extend on that and talk about the definition of a caregiver.
Sure.
So we'll be right back here on Overgrow the Radio.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
What's up, Colorado? This is J-Dub.
And this is Dust. We're the Weed Pimps.
That's right. Come on down to our warehouse at 62A Mount View Lane, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80907. Any day of the week, anytime. And we will show you glass blowing, screen printing, and everything we do at the Weed Pimp warehouse.
That's right. You can get your custom screen print. We also do rush orders. If you need a heat press, we can get that done.
That's right. Also check out our mobile advertising. In the meantime, get with us on Weed Pimp Clothing on Facebook
and on the YouTube channel
WPTV-JDub.
And if you need to get a hold of us at our warehouse, the phone number is
913-484-4550,
719-684-5793.
Ladies of Colorado, we've kept you in mind. Look out for our full line of
The Ganja Girl. That's right. If you want to look fly, make sure you get your smoking gear.
Weed Pimp Clothing, ladies first.
Ganja Girl approved.
Ganja Girl approved.
let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20/2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley Brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. I forgot all about it. Today is my birthday.
It is.
I try to ignore them. Once I hit 30, it's like, yeah, whatever. It happens once a year. I hide in a closet, and tomorrow's a new day.
But you forget about the most unlikely birthday shows. It's Frosty the Snowman, because every time he redoes it and goes, "Happy birthday!" So, happy birthday.
So
At
we're
least
back.
there's not clowns like hiding in a closet,
Clowns.
like ready to scare you.
For anyone who watched
Upside.
our last Stanley Brothers episode, Jesse likes clowns, balloons, and circuses. So we should have kept him around. Speaking of that, we've got a lot of great shows here on iCannabis Radio. The Stanley Brothers being just started, what is it, American Weed, the Realm Radio is the proper name of it?
It was.
I was calling it the Realm Radio, and I think that wasn't the full. Anyway, you should definitely tune in Tuesday nights for them and Sexpot Radio. Wednesday nights is Thunderdome. Monday nights is
you don't mention Georgia, you will get
Your
emails.
Wonderful Life.
I'm chatting with her right now, so you better.
Well, I call
Chris already got emails. He's fine.
I just called her Your Wonderful Life, which I guess may be appropriate, but wife as well.
And don't forget about her the Run on Grass half marathon, right?
Thank you.
Which one? I mean, every other weekend she's running. We got the Slacker half marathon coming up in a couple weeks out of Georgetown.
I knew he'd know.
And it's wild because you run from Loveland Ski Area downhill into Georgetown.
Ooh, downhill.
And
at least it's downhill.
Well,
That's
you
doable.
think that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the funniest thing because if you go down to the finish line, you see some of the premier runners in the state collapse because it works the wrong different muscles.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah,
because they're running downhill.
More of like
and they don't. And I mean seriously, they go.
There's a lot about
and the
downhill,
last mile is uphill on a dirt road because they run down past the old mine, down below, and then up into town.
That's just
and they are one of the few marathons and half marathons in the state that I've ever seen serve popsicles, but at the same time it is some of the happiest runners I have ever seen, and I've now seen a lot of running races. But
well, when you're running on grass, a popsicle, someone handing a popsicle to you as you're coming by, that's got to be golden.
Well, they get to that ending and just pow.
I have a bad. I used to be a runner, but I have a bad back, as you guys know.
I'm a pretty good runner too. I used to be.
I would dream of that. I still backpack what I can do. I still hike. As a hiker, hiking out east, we have what you call trail magic.
Yeah.
And you come along in the middle of nowhere, there'll be a cooler with sodas or even watermelon fruit, that type of thing. It's amazing. That simple thing.
No,
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's jump back in. Again, I guess we're talking Constitution with you a little bit here, or at least part of the Constitution. Yeah. In Amendment 20, it does define a caregiver, which I've also is one of the points of the prosecution this week. And, basically the way that I've always interpreted it, since, I've only been a resident for a few years and a patient, but before I moved here, I obviously studied up. Mm-hmm. And the way I've always thought of it is, a caregiver is anyone who I say, okay, Laura, you can grow my 6 plants. You have my permission. It doesn't have to be official. The notarized paperwork that you do when you do change of caregiver form seems to be sufficient in most of what I've seen. I wanted to let Warren give his opinion on caregivers and the definition.
Well, I mean, it's about history. Because, I mean, what did we have? We had California come first, and Dennis Perone go way the F out there and do his thing. And he and Bill Panzer and others put together Prop 215. Okay, and we sit here in a medical marijuana day and age. Mid-late 90s, completely different thing. We were coming off years of Reagan into years of Bush into years of another friggin' Bush. I mean, OMG. And then we finally elect Clinton, and he arrests even more people. What the hell's going on?
It's because he didn't inhale.
Yeah, seriously. But I mean, you got to go from the fact that we're sitting in that day and age, coming off of 10 or 15 years of just marijuana terrorism, and so. Sitting there on that, and what do you got to do? I mean, they use the word caregiver in California. Okay, why? Because general public attaches a caregiver helps a patient. Okay,
sure, mm-hmm.
That's what they did, and then that word got adopted here because it worked. Okay.
Well, and it's more of a healthcare term.
Yes.
You know, when you're talking healthcare, when you're talking doctors, Western medicine, that's the terminology for it. So I guess it's a little more accepted to say that.
Problem is it confuses people with a home healthcare nurse.
Sure.
Okay. So then what do we go through?
Right. Like hospice.
Yeah, we go through years of trying to develop this system where we have patients looking for how to get it, and all these things are going together. And clearly Amendment 20, Article 18, Section 14, says a caregiver can provide to a patient. So we had people like Cannabis Therapeutics. I won't name their owner because I'm not sure he wants to be named. But I mean, you know, that person, love him, hate him, total pain in the ass, whatever. He stuck his neck out there, opened Cannabis Therapeutics, amongst others, and then our friend Derek, who doesn't care if I name his name, up one side and the other, you know, they're up in Windsor, and all of a sudden, game on, you know, we got 8, 9, 10 places, which are a caregiver providing for a lot of patients.
Sure.
Okay. The problem is California mucked things up, and not in a bad way, because he was doing good work, but we had the Mensch case come out of California that said there's, you know, Mr. Mensch who's providing medical marijuana and actually driving his patients to the doctors, okay? And he gets in trouble. Really? Really? A guy that's actually doing that and other things. I mean, he was
going
actually
over, beyond than what dispensaries do these days.
Well, I'm not making that up. I mean, that was
what doctors used to do.
Well,
wouldn't that be great?
Doing what doctors used to do.
Wouldn't that be great, Chris, if somebody picked you up and took you to the doctor?
Yeah.
Even if it was only twice a year. Holy crap, man, that's a good service.
Yeah.
But so he's doing this, right? And he gets his ass kicked by the government, and he goes through all this stuff when California says, no, you need to provide other services other than taking him to the doctor and providing weed. And then they throw out this plethora of crap, which is, they literally say things like sweeping the walk, assisting with cooking, assisting with cleaning his house. Okay, so that comes in California. But the reality of the world is this. We have the Clendening case come to head. What does the judge do? Assigns to her clerk, hey, what do you know about weed? What? And the clerk goes, medical marijuana. But I'm probably sure the judge said weed, maybe pot. Then, well, they Google it, and all that comes up is mensch.
Sure.
And then what do we get? No, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's a cut and paste world, particularly by the late '90s. Judge doesn't want to make new law. I mean, I actually like her, but new law not made. You know, all of a sudden Clendening is adopting mensch, the appellate court is adopting mensch, and all of a sudden 1284 and 1043 become parts of mensch, and CDPHE is adopting mensch. And what I mean by that is caregivers have to provide other wellness services other than just marijuana. We had new rules come out of CDPHE last July. And Regulation 9, if you're a caregiver, read Regulation 9 of CDPHE. It's a whole nother show. That's good, okay? The rest of the 20, 30 pages suck. They basically say you have to provide discount back rubs and drive them to the doctor and find somebody to sweep their walk and do some other shit.
Well, but yet they also released a newsletter that said, oh, now you can change your caregiver every 30 days.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a contradiction. I mean, patients out there do not know this. They still think it's the 120 days.
Well, and it's not realistic.
It's better than that.
I mean, to think.
Oh, it's better.
In my mind, anyway, like cannabis is all I need from my caregiver. You know, part
you can't go to Walgreens.
Well, part of my disability, cannabis, so. You know, not being able to do things.
Tell the pharmacist he has to come home and help you cook.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Oh, God, stop hitting on me. And then you're in the Springs, so you'll probably get arrested.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, you know.
Actually, you know, on a positive note right there, I was in Walgreens the other day picking up my one medication. And I have a great pharmacist. She's like our age and our age group, I should say, and very informed on cannabis. We talk about it. I promoted, you know, told her about the radio show, and it's refreshing. You know, that's not something you always find when you go into Walgreens from a chief pharmacist.
No, and go outside of this state anywhere but basically California.
Scary.
Wow, harsh new world. I mean, and we forget. I mean, as much as we get discouraged and hate what's going around us, I mean, drop into anywhere, Virginia through Florida, across to Texas, up through Oklahoma, and circle around us and go to Utah.
Yeah, I mean,
oh my God.
I spent the last.
I'm from Utah, so I've got pretty much my whole family. Well, my whole family's
you're in
Utah.
Wyoming, you're dead.
Well, Texas.
Almost.
I mean,
I've
Josh
lived in
and those
Illinois,
guys-
Florida, Kentucky,
Well,
right there with you.
The oil.
It's,
you have it in Texas. You're probably in jail for life.
Sure.
And I'm not,
that's as
not
bad
a
as
joke.
LSD.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
and
it's by weight. It's by weight.
Oh, it's by weight.
Yeah. And so unless your LSD is old school in a sugar cube, it's much worse.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing with that too, is it Oklahoma where if you're caught making hash now, you can get life in prison?
Death penalty, isn't it?
Is it?
No, I don't.
No, it's
no.
life in prison. But
well, one of the state. Is it only life? Anyway, we got to do more research.
Yeah, I mean, it's
way
still
off topic.
either way. It might as well be death. I mean, if you're gonna put me in a box for the rest of my life for a plant, you might as well shoot me.
Yeah. Well, with no probation.
You know, I
or
do
parole.
travel. I'm about to go get my daughter, and I'll go a couple of days on pharmaceuticals while I travel because I don't want to run the risk of not having my daughter.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Right. Yeah, I know. Forgive me.
No problem.
So we gotta make a phone call here to Lono. I don't know if we're gonna take a break.
Hey,
Maybe
thanks
we
for
should
having
take
me
a
on.
break. Yeah, Warren. Thank you for all you do.
Happy birthday again.
Right on. Thank you.
See,
Thank you
he
guys.
likes it. Smiles every time.
Well, you guys are my friends, so that's different. I turn red at everything. I'm gonna say I'm sunburnt today.
That's because he's hanging around me.
He wasn't sunburned like 30 seconds ago.
My
but
hair's radiating off of him, I'm sure.
There you go. So we'll pay some bills and be right back here on
Please do.
Overgrow the Radio. Peace.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. Runongrass.com.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
What's up, Colorado? This is J-Dub.
And this is Dust. We're the Weed Pimps.
That's right. Come on down to our warehouse at 62A Mount View Lane, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80907. Any day of the week, anytime. And we will show you glass blowing, screen printing, and everything we do at the Weed Pimp warehouse.
That's right. You can get your custom screen print. We also do rush orders. If you need a heat press, we can get that done.
That's right. Also check out our mobile advertising. In the meantime, get with us on Weed Pimp Clothing on Facebook
and on the YouTube channel
WPTVJDub.
And if you need to get a hold of us at our warehouse, the phone number is
913-484-4550,
719-684-5793.
Ladies of Colorado, we've kept you in mind. Look out for our full line of
The Ganja Girl. That's right.
If you want to look fly, make sure you get your smoking gear. We Pimp Clothing, ladies first. Ganja Girl approved.
Ganja Girl approved.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at GratefulJosh.
My other half might argue with the whole no woman, no cry thing. Well, I think you cry either way, don't you? Isn't that how you ladies do it?
I'm very emotional, so that would be me, yes.
Men break men's hearts. It's all good. We're going to call up our friend Lono from Eagle's Nest Wellness. Lono, I'm lucky enough to live in the beautiful part of Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs. Lono owns a dispensary right up the hill from there. He's had some run-ins with our city and Dan May, and we're going to let him...
This is Lono.
Hey, Lono, this is Stickman from Overgrow the Radio. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Laura.
Hi, how are you tonight?
And
Hi, Laura. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much.
And our next guests are sitting in, too, but we haven't introduced them yet. They're our friends from C4 CPR down there in the Springs, Audrey and Jared. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Good. Thank you for having us.
So Lono, I've been sitting all week in Elisa Kappelman's trial, watching our taxpayer dollars hard at work from our lovely district attorney Dan May.
Yeah, that is so sad.
Isn't it though? You and I met back at a mixer. As you know, I sit on the board down there with the council, and I heard your story briefly, you know, that you had issues yourself going through licensing, and you've had some run-ins with Dan May. I want to start, though, at the beginning and let you know, introduce yourself and your business, and then let you just kind of jump right in to your situation with the city down there.
Sure. Well, I'm Lona Hoala, and we have Eagle's Nest Wellness Center in Cascade. We're about, 10 minutes west of Colorado Springs, but we're still in El Paso County. So our licensing process went through El Paso County, and we have worked very hard at being compliant. The state has really appreciated our efforts. The inspections we've had have always been exemplary. They keep telling us that we are just doing an exemplary job of being in compliance and doing what we need to do. When we went for our hearing in front of the county commissioners for our license, just prior to that hearing, the local Gestapo, the VNI, came up to go through the place, and Detective Bain went through the place and never really said anything that was problematic or difficult.
Did he turn really... I have to ask you, did Detective Bain turn really red over the course of the time he was at your establishment? I've noticed in court
he was acting
really
very
red.
nice. When he turned red is after we got our license. He was so mad that veins were popping out on his head.
I'm sorry, continue. I just had to interject.
Got it. Yeah, he. That's basically. So he went through the place, and when it came time for a hearing, he showed up to testify, and I was utterly shocked at what he had to say to the county commissioners. He had taken an oath. He had, sworn to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, and so he gets up and he tells us that we're out of compliance on our signage, and we're out of compliance on our medical marijuana waste. We're out of compliance on our VCR, and oh, by the way, you never submitted the proper paperwork so that we could determine where your investment came from. And based on all of these reasons, we have to recommend that the county deny you your license. And I was just utterly shocked. I mean, it's like, where does this come from? We're in compliance on all of those things.
Well,
and
the hoops you've jumped through that every dispensary owner has jumped through, that's got to be like a kick in the teeth when you hear that.
Well, it was. And in addition to that, there was kind of a shot across the bow. One of the things he pointed out was that in an interview I had done with a reporter from the Gazette-Telegraph or maybe one of the TV stations, I don't even remember, it was so long ago, she had asked me how much we'd stand to lose in the event that the city would, or the county would shut us down. And I told her an amount of money that was about twice the amount of money that we've invested in the place, and for the medical marijuana side of things.
Sure.
And the reason is that I run 4 businesses out of this building, and we have the equity in the real estate and all that sort of thing. So obviously, if you're going to be run out of business and the whole thing shuts down, I have a lot more to lose than just the money I invested in the center. So, but he made a point of saying that because those items were different, that he had real reservations about our honesty, and what it was a shot across the bow saying, I don't want you talking anymore to news media and making us look bad. And that's really what I think it was about. So anyway, luckily, Lori Segal, the assistant county attorney, knew that he was lying. And so she interrupted the hearing and said she needed to have some time to check out the issues because she just felt that there was a lot of confusion going on. So they postponed the hearing for 2 weeks. She, in fact, double-checked on the materials that we had provided the county. They were completely in order. She came up here. She saw the other things that he had claimed had happened, and she realized that he was lying about that. So 2 weeks later, when our hearing was on again, she actually had the courage to step up in front of the county commissioners. Bain was in the room. She refused to let him testify again, and she said she had checked everything out personally. We were totally in compliance. She recommended that we get our license, and the county commissioners, in fact, then voted unanimously to give us our license. And Bain stormed out of the room. He was standing outside. I walked out to try to shake his hand. He refused to shake my hand. He was bright red, veins popping out on his temples, veins popping out on his neck, and all he could say to me was, good luck.
So this is just an image thing for him.
Their attitude in Colorado Springs and El Paso County is, it floors me. A couple of examples, and at the end we're gonna talk about Elisa's trial without detail in case those guys are listening. A couple of examples.
He pulled up that interview with me from 6 or 9 months before.
Oh yeah, I mean they've pulled up YouTube videos in court this week, and they do. Great. I encourage them to. Maybe they learned something from a presidential candidate tonight, Gary Johnson, telling them how the war on drugs was a failure. I hope they are listening. That being said, just character, what you're talking about, the interaction with the people who actually pay their salary, which are you and I. Today, I was in the courtroom, or yesterday, I'm sorry, and I had noticed all week that the DA, the prosecutors were coming in and hanging out in the corner and watching the proceedings. They even came in one day in their street clothes, which I teased them about it being casual day at the DA's office. They come in, they observe, they do their thing, and I asked, yesterday, are you guys with the DA's office? And the guy looked in my eyes and he said, well, what business is it of yours, or what do you care? And I'm sorry, this was today. Mm-hmm. So as he was saying that, the judge came out and I couldn't address it. So after, at the next break, I turned to him and I said, I care, sir, because I pay your salary. We're taxpayers. You work for the taxpayers, and I've sat here for 4 days and watched this absurdity, and yada yada. That's what I like to do. But, like you were saying, in the hallway the day before that, one of the detectives that's testifying on the case, I was in the hallway, tried to just make casual talk, small talk. I tend to think I'm pretty friendly to people when I meet them. And he told me flat out I was talking to the wrong person and I should move along. Was his response to, have a nice day. So ultimately, you
let me tell you just a bit more what happened.
Please do.
I had a number of people in Colorado Springs who knew about what had happened. There were some other dispensary owners in the room that were shocked by what had happened. And so there are a lot of people that encouraged me to go public, and because he lied under oath, and they were blatant lies, not kind of little lies, and expressly for the intent of putting us out of business and 8 people out of a job. And but I decided I didn't really want to do that. I'm 64 years old. I've been around the block more than once. I didn't want to deal with it in a behind the back way, so I decided to go directly to Dan May's office and make my complaint to Dan May. I also wrote a letter that detailed the lies and referred to the actual minutes into the hearing of each lie so that they could listen to it in context. None of the county commissioners responded to my letter. So I sent a copy of that letter to Dan May. Dan May had a DA call me, said he would look into it, and then about a week later called me back and said they determined it was just a misunderstanding.
Of course.
So here's this guy tells blatant lies under oath with the express purpose of putting me out of business, and according to the DA, it's a misunderstanding.
Well, and I think it's important to jump in, if you'll allow me to, real quick right here. I have to jump in and point out the fact, and I don't know if you had any dealings with Detective Limpcool down there in the Springs, who's also part of VNI. He's the one involved in the current cases. He actually has, for all our listeners, he has a new long goatee, so I'm thinking he's trying to fit in with bikers or something. So, keep your eyes open for him. Bald head, long goatee, real beady little eyes. Anyway, in my experience of these two, I've noticed that they are kind of the primary people who testify at these cases, at these trials. It's important that we have you on our show and call them out that they are lying. It's important that the voters know that these are the kind of people our police department are sending to the courts to represent them. There is a policy issue on a lot of these things, but we really need to question, and I'm going to get your opinion on this, who is telling them to do these things, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they're smart enough to do it on their own.
I can't tell you who's telling them to do it. What I can tell you is that Dan May refuses to hold them responsible for lying under oath. And he had every opportunity to do so in our particular situation, and he refused to do it. That bothers me a lot. Just so you know, I'm a biochemist, but back in the early days of my educational experience, I worked my way through undergraduate school at the University of Colorado by being a deputy sheriff for the Boulder County Sheriff's Department.
Didn't know that.
One of the things that was the hardest for us to take, because the job is hard, but one of the hardest things is when you have another officer or detective or someone who's associated with the police force that is misusing their power. And it creates incredible antagonism in the community and disrespect for law enforcement. And if you're another deputy and you're the one that has to confront the public, and they already have a negative mindset and they think that you're not going to treat them fairly or responsibly, it's dangerous. It's difficult. It makes your job 10 times as hard. And so the first people, I think, that ought to be concerned about what's going on are the other police officers and state patrolmen and sheriff's department people. I have the greatest respect, just so you know, for Terry Makita, our local El Paso County sheriff.
Sure.
He had the guts when the county was trying to propose a ban. Dan May got up and tried to tell the county how much crime has increased because of medical marijuana in the county, and was trying to make this case about how it was just this horrible cesspool of crime and problems. And Sheriff Makita got up right afterwards and said, actually, I have hired one of my people that they were tasked to see if they could find any increase in crime to try to see what the numbers really show. We cannot find any increase in crime whatsoever.
Well, that's come up in the media this week too. We addressed it earlier in a show with Governor Johnson that the factors they don't take into play, like they're comparing this year with last year. In 2009 is essentially when our cannabis boom happened here in Colorado. To repeat myself again, we'll jump back in and get your opinion or let you continue. What the factors I see that aren't being looked at, or they are by those of us who have a little common sense, is, of course, in the last year, crime went up because banks pulled all of your guys' accounts and told you have to keep all this cash on hand.
And you can't have a gun on the premises.
And you can't have a gun on the premises.
Or animals, right? Or a dog.
Right. So, right there, anyone with a criminal mind is looking at that as a golden opportunity. So that's just common sense. Number two, which I see more as a basis or a foundation for this argument, is essentially since 2009, the MMJ industry is brand new in Colorado. Whether you agree with that statement or not, we took off in 2009 after the Ogden memo.
Yes.
And that being said, it's a brand new industry. It's a commodity. And I said earlier, I hate to ever compare it to this, but it's like, in a sense, alcohol and pharmaceuticals, where it's a sought-after commodity that is sold in a retail environment. Of course, that's going to open that up for more crime. These are things that it's part of the propaganda machine, as you well know. But it's things that ordinary people reading these articles don't think about and don't contemplate,
There's another aspect, too. When I was at the Capitol for the DUID bill, the representatives used the same exact thing, that DUIs were up because of cannabis. And as all of us know in the industry and keep track of these numbers, know strictly that that's because of alcohol.
Right.
Sure.
And people driving on the wrong side of the highway and people getting killed. I know that I have a friend that knows somebody specifically that was involved in an accident that was related to alcohol.
Sure.
But none of these accidents or fatalities, I should say, are happening because of cannabis. It's actually going down.
Right. They can't isolate cannabis alone in fatal accidents.
Right.
They
especially
never have
when
been
it's
able
being
to.
used with alcohol. Alcohol just accentuates the effect of it. So
and another
they're
trick,
just going to put it on cannabis users.
Another trick they like to do in articles is when they quote studies, and like right-wing media, the anti-drug media, if you will, not always right-wing, I shouldn't say that. They always talk about all drugs. They never, if you notice with like the traffic fatalities, they'll never say cannabis because they would be lying.
Yes.
They have to say the study about all drugs.
That's assuming they want to tell the truth, and a lot of times they don't. I mean, the important thing that I think we need to understand is that there is a mentality and a mindset on the part of a certain subset of our American population that want to impose their values on everybody else.
Absolutely.
And they do so irrespective of how this country's values really work and what this country is really all about.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
I used to teach constitutional studies. I attended a interesting debate with Mark Waller, who serves on the State Judiciary or House Judiciary Committee. I believe it was a fundraiser that he was attempting to do for himself out at a golf course here in Colorado Springs. And some people asked me to attend because they knew he was going to be speaking about marijuana. And I stood up at the end. I asked, he took questions. I stood up and I asked him, Mr. Waller, can you please tell me where you think Americans get their rights? And he gave the standard Republican response. And by the way, just so you know, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I think that the Republicans and the Democrats are both bought and paid for when it comes to that level. And
Republicans.
I don't really see any difference between them. But the bottom line is that I said, where do we get our rights? And his standard Republican answer was, well, of course, we get them from the Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Mr. Waller, then I have to respectfully suggest that you're not qualified to sit on the House Judiciary Committee, because our founding fathers, the brilliance of America was that our founding fathers defined God not as a Christian God, not as any proprietary God, but as the ultimate creator of all that is.
Sure.
And whichever approach you want to take, to a better understanding of that God has nothing to do with the God that they talked about when they set up our Constitution. And the idea is that we all come here from that all that is. And that's the place where we're all equal. That's a definition of God that even an atheist can accept, that there is such a thing as the all that is, and we all come here from that God. And we come here with what, I'm a kahuna priest from Hawaii, we would call it sacred space. The founding fathers called it unalienable rights.
Sure.
And that's the source of our rights. God is the source of our rights. The only right the government can have is the right I already have. I do not have a right to tell you or anybody else whether or not you ought to take an aspirin for your pain or a Percocet or a joint.
Right.
And if I don't have that right as an individual, you can't have that right as the government.
Absolutely.
And I actually got a standing ovation from these people in this room. This is the part that we have to hit. If we're going to move the center of gravity in this country away from its prejudices toward medical marijuana, we have to really point out over and over and over and over again that all of this war on drugs and all of this stuff about marijuana is an absolute violation of our human rights, that the government does not have that right. The Constitution doesn't give us our rights. The Constitution was a guarantee, a written guarantee that the government knew where we got our rights.
Yeah, actually the Constitution and Bill of Rights were created to keep government small, ironically.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so now what's happening is people like Dan May and John Suthers, his mentor, and people that work for them like Detective Bain and Limpool and some of these people that are out there eradicating marijuana from our midst and trying to use the same old fear tactics. You ever notice how government always uses fear to expand its power into further and further tyranny?
Absolutely.
They constantly talk about how we need to be afraid for our children because marijuana is going to get in the hands of our children. I would love to run some ads. You want to know the biggest threat to our children? Are people like Dan May and John Suthers and these people who want to enforce their values on the rest of society. They're willfully ignorant. They refuse to be educated about this issue, and they are sure they are right, and they need to make somebody else wrong. And that, in our way, that's the essence of unconsciousness, is when you're so sure you're right, you need to make somebody else wrong, and you can't even hear where they're coming from. And that's where these people are. And they have tremendous police power. And if you want to be afraid for your children, just keep letting government go that direction, and we won't have any freedom left at all. What we already have is been pretty well eroded in my lifetime, and it's getting worse every day.
Absolutely, Lono. I talked to my grandmother the other day, who's in her 70s, and she kind of reverberated that, that my grandfather would be ashamed that he fought for our freedom in World War II, and this is where we're at.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you back on. You can always talk to me about sponsoring and running some of those ads. We'll get them worked out. I'd love to run some PSAs for you. iCannabis Radio would love to.
We need to educate the public.
I'll get up there. I'll drive up the hill. I'm in town Mondays and Tuesdays in Manitou. I'll try to get up there and see you at some point. But we will get you back on. Keep up, the good fight. We've all got an uphill battle in El Paso County in general. So all of us standing up together is huge. I'm glad you got through all the battles and that you guys are in business. You've got a great establishment up there. Real quick before we have to go, can you give a shout out your website for us so folks know how to find you, where you're at?
Yeah, it's very simple. EaglesNestWellnessCenter.com.
Very good, sir. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
719-687-2928.
I think we got
what I really want help with, we appreciate the business, obviously. We've been very busy, and I'm grateful that we've been able to survive and be able to be of service to increasing numbers of patients. But what I really want is support, and maybe we can talk about this later on, but what I'd like to do is create a group that we talk about this basic issue of rights, where we get our rights, and why this is such an overreach on the part of our government.
Absolutely.
And that is the place where we need to band together, because marijuana is the canary in the coal mine. People think that they can get away with it with marijuana, but if they do, then the overreach and the tyranny reaches into every other part of your life sooner or later. And if the government isn't stopped from overreaching their authority, the country that I wanted my kids to grow up in is going to cease to exist.
Well, we'll keep fighting. There's no doubt. Well, Lona, we're going to run and pay some bills real quick, but thank you so much, sir, for coming on. And
thank you.
We'll
it
talk
was great
to you
be
again
here,
soon.
and good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very
Have a great
much.
night.
Thanks.
So stick around with us. When we come back, we're going to talk to C4 CPR and maybe leave the night with a rant about Dan May.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
What's up, Colorado? This is J-Dub.
And this is Dust. We're the Weed Pimps.
That's right. Come on down to our warehouse at 62A Mount View Lane, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80907. Any day of the week, anytime. And we will show you glass blowing, screen printing, and everything we do at the Weed Pimp warehouse.
That's right. You can get your custom screen print. We also do rush orders. If you need a heat press, we can get that done.
That's right. Also check out our mobile advertising. In the meantime, get with us on Weed Pimp Clothing on Facebook
and on the YouTube channel
WPTV J-Dub.
And if you need to get a hold of us at our warehouse, the phone number is
913-484-4550,
719-684-5793.
Ladies of Colorado, we've kept you in mind. Look out for our full line of
The Ganja Girl. That's right. If you want to look fly, make sure you get your smoking gear.
Weed Pimp Clothing. Ladies first.
Ganja Girl approved.
Ganja Girl approved.
California's Attorney General has determined that the Repeal Cannabis Prohibition Act will save hundreds of millions of dollars from our overburdened justice system while creating hundreds of millions in new tax revenues from new sustainable jobs and industries that are friendly to our environment. But we can't do it without your help. We are seeking your donations to get on the ballot. Please go to repealcannabisprohibition.org to learn more about how you can help. It's time to end the war on cannabis and hemp in California. It's time to end the madness. Paid for by Sensible Californians Incorporated.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley Brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Oh, we have no lead in. We're back on Overgrow the radio. Chris likes to see if I'm on my toes sometimes. He likes to see if I have learned live radio, and I haven't. I'm still learning every day. So our next guest, as we talk about, they actually get a little extra time, so we're going to do some ranting too tonight. I didn't do Stickman versus the government tonight, so you guys are going to help me with that one. But we also, as much as we're political here and we like to give it, give the government hell and anyone who's violating our rights, we also like to highlight people who help people out and organizations who do that. And being from the Springs, we have a number of organizations there that are great organizations that help patients, help the industry. C4CPR is really one of those. Audrey, the founder, is actually one of the first people I met in the industry when I moved out here. How are you guys again?
Doing great. Yeah.
And Jared, and you can introduce yourselves however you see fit.
Yep, I'm Audrey Hatfield. I'm the founder and president of C4CPR.
And I'm Jared McCusker. I'm the media director at C4CPR.
And Jared's a big dude. I think he's just a muscle. I think he travels with Audrey for protection.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that.
So tell us about C4CPR. How long you guys been around?
We have been around since November of 2010. That was when we, filed for our official status.
Sure.
I actually started C4CPR in July of 2010.
Sure.
And it took a little while. And what we do is we have several dispensaries that work within our program that lower the cost of the meds down for the patients in our program. And then we also have doctors that we can get $0 to $50 doctor visits for those patients that are on low and fixed incomes.
Nice.
So
you guys, since the last time you were on, it's been a little while. It's been 5 or 6 weeks, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are now expanding up here into Denver?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, actually, we came up here, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And I think we've got another 4, possibly 6 centers on board up here in Denver.
Yeah, you guys passed me on the interstate that day.
Yeah, we did.
I saw a car full of activists go flying past me. I'm like, they must not be medicated. They're driving too fast.
Right. Yeah, well, everybody up here was real receptive to us. You know, I think everybody liked our program, and of course, who couldn't, right?
Sure.
And
sure.
So we're excited to expand up here and hopefully pick up some more centers here in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. And we are in the process of, we're going to start having monthly patient meetings where we can discuss what's going on with different various bills, any questions people may have. If they want to join our program, they can, we can help them out with the application. I mean, the application's really easy.
Sure.
But some people need help on it, I guess.
Well, educate people, get people,
Yes.
register people to vote.
Right.
That's big. We need to do that.
And just getting the word out about your services. I mean, we don't live in that big of a town population-wise, and I run into people all the time, whether it be through the council or the radio show or whatever, who are looking for that assistance. And I'm quick to send them your guys' way. A lot of people need that in today's economy. That discount on their meds or free meds, whatever the case may be. The doctor's visit, that's a huge expense for a single mother, struggling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then we have, from the beginning, the Stanley brothers have helped us out. Joel was the first Stanley brother I met, and they help us out with our cancer patients.
Sure. Yeah. They're great people. As you know personally, you and I talk frequently, all three of us. I've sent cancer patients to them, and within 2 days, the Realm is what we're referring to, their foundation, the Realm of Caring, has had oil to these patients. It's remarkable. I was walking, and forgive me, radio listeners, if I've told this story, but I was walking through Manitou one day, on one of the rare days when I got to hang out in Manitou, and happened to pop in on a friend who owns a shop out there, and she was telling me she had some moles that were, cancerous, and they removed them, but she had some others that were weird looking. So, the first thing in my mind is, well, I'm going to call Josh, So I did, and he sent me a text, I believe the next morning, saying that they were meeting with her. And by the end of the week, she had oil. So within 3 days.
That's awesome.
So, I think where I was going with that is, whether our organizations branch out or are local, all of us in the state who try to help patients in whatever way, shape, or form, it's great to see us intertwine and work together. We all present ourselves in different ways to the community as organizations, and that being said, we reach different audiences and we reach different people. And when we all realize that when we work together, we reach so many more people, I think that's when we really start to win this war on opinion. Anything else you guys want to add about C4CPR?
Well, we're having another fundraiser July 19th, Thursday at the Union Station down in Colorado Springs. Yeah, it's yeah, you'll miss that one, I guess. Darn, that's the only night we can get. So.
Sure, and I understand because our mixers are the same way. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just great that you guys are really starting to branch out up here in Denver. I'm sure you guys are aware that MMAPA left the community, and to my knowledge, really left a lot of people behind.
Right.
So since with me being a part of that organization, since that had happened, I have been sending patients your way. So it's really great to know. I also do work at a dispensary that we do have low-income patients, and giving them that kind of access. So,
so you'd like to be a representative for Audrey in Denver? Is that what you're saying?
You know it. That's my background. That's where I come from. That's why my heart is in the community, is because of patients first, and really caring for those patients that are low income, that need a little bit of assistance, that, because we're all out there. There's so many of us that are struggling, regardless if you use medical cannabis or not.
Right.
Sure.
So why shouldn't this type of program be offered to, ones in our community as well?
Yes,
so
definitely.
it's definitely something that I'm very proud of, that you guys are, still in it and are, willing to come up here and really help.
Well, we
Denver
had
as
an
well.
overwhelming response because, Culture Magazine donates an ad to us every single month. And so we get a lot of calls from Denver. And, we had talked about it.
We're a small group.
Yeah, we're very small. So
we have 5 board members, and
yeah,
that's what we're working
That's
with.
how nonprofits are, but
That, sometimes that helps. It's got its pluses, and I sit on a couple boards that are big and a couple that are small, and I could pick definitely positive and negative about both. We need to talk about a couple of court cases real quick.
Yes.
First, I'm going to let Audrey talk about Bob Kraus. He's, for those who don't know, a quick overview. He's been on our show many times. He's a now 64-year-old cancer patient, I believe. He just had a birthday Monday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Bob. I told him in person on Monday.
Yeah.
And he's being prosecuted because he had a recommendation for a higher plant count. There was a little snafu in paperwork. Still has his affirmative defense under the recommendation from his doctor under Amendment 20 of the Colorado State Constitution.
Right.
But now that I've said all those details, I'm going to let you kind of update us. He had a hearing today, right?
Yes, he did, and he's having another one on the 14th. I guess that Dr. Bob is going to be allowed to testify as a witness on Bob's behalf, so that's great news. Bob called me on our way up here to tell me that news, so that was great. And just to let me know that Elisa will be back in court again tomorrow. Of course, I haven't been able to be at the courthouse other than Monday, as you know, because I've been working. So
you've missed a whole lot of wasted time and money.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a waste of time and money because it shouldn't even be happening.
Yeah.
Neither case.
Yeah, I mean, really, and the thing I should add with Bob is it is a huge victory that Dr. Bob Robert Melamede, for those of you listening, Google his name. He's a premier, really our key researcher as far as cannabis goes, in my opinion. He, now on the 14th, what they need to decide before the trial on the 25th is whether Dr. Bob qualifies as an expert witness. When I heard that, it was a little sad that we're still dealing with this, but it makes me laugh. Here's a guy, we don't study cannabis in this country, let me rephrase that. We study cannabis in a very limited quantity, and the quantity of that studied, the quality sucks, to put it blatantly. It's grown at the University of Mississippi by our government, by the students there and professors, and the quality of it's horrible. I've seen it. I know we all do, federal medical marijuana patients who receive this cannabis. So that's what we're testing, is that kind of stuff. And to jump through the hoops to actually get the public funding through the DEA, the OKs to do it is impossible. So what we're seeing is privately funded research, and it's only been happening for, say a decade, really. You have a few pioneers like Lester Grinspoon, who's a Harvard PhD, for decades and decades and decades, who studied it and is an encyclopedia. And then you have Dr. Bob, and you have Dr. Shackelford. But with those two, really, they've only been doing it as long as it's been the studies have been going on. So to not consider him a witness, to me, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's absurd.
It is absurd.
Well, and Bob's definitely suffering because of it. The longer they drag this out, the longer that poor man has to suffer, and that's just wrong.
Yeah, suffering from cannabis, what a lot of people don't really look at is it's a recovering from cancer, not suffering from cannabis. It's my birthday. I'm allowed one slip up, right? Freudian slip. But yeah, recovering from cancer is no joke, obviously, and it's something that takes a good environment all the way around. It can't just be one or two elements. You have to focus your life on getting better. And to be encompassed with a court case, over the fact that you're saving yourself with an oil that comes from a plant, I mean, at what point does America, even the people who don't like cannabis, who think it's evil, who think we're all a bunch of pothead, axe murderer, whatever the case may be, reefer madness people, there has to come a point where even in those people's heart, they look at this and say, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
You would think.
Right. So before we run out of time, I'm going to give an overview. I told you guys off the air I could go on and on and on. My co-host and friend, family really, not friend, Elisa Kappelman is on trial this week. I apologize to all our listeners. I'm a little tired tonight. I've been there all week long, sitting with her and her family. And, I've seen so much that I could rant and rave about. I have ranted and raved tonight about Bain and Lumcool and Dan May, and I can continue to do that. But for her sake and Mr. Corey, her attorney's sake, I'm going to keep my comments on the details to a minimum, and, we'll try to focus on the details. The gist of what's going on, the overview from what I've seen, they sat the jury on Monday. And it's always really funny to me because when they get their, the DA and the defense both get to kick off people with no reason. Mm-hmm. And it's always funny to see they pick people like Jared and I with tattoos and piercings.
Or somebody wearing a P-shirt.
Yeah.
Tie-dye shirt or something.
One lady admitted that her, I think, fiance was a patient. Well, she was gone. Called that one right away. And then on the flip side of that, I sort of... was watching the defense do the same thing in that, one lady volunteered for the police for 10 years as an interpreter. Well, of course you're gone. So yeah, that was, I guess I want to point out some of the absurdity of where our money's going with this. Not only is Elisa a friend of mine, but I preach this a lot. I'm a fiscal conservative, and the fact that we are wasting our taxpayer dollars on both of these cases, but this one in particular. So the whole day Monday and part of Tuesday we're sitting a jury. So, and let me digress to add that Monday morning when we were supposed to seat the jury, the state decided to file like 10 to 12 more motions.
Yeah, of course.
Which, at the last minute, they've got to throw those in just to spread things out. So I will say, that we went on and we sat the jury, and then the testimony started, and then of course they call, the prosecutor's witnesses first. So it was the detectives involved in the case, and in my personal opinion, state that for the record, I believe that the police that took the stand worked in our favor. Our favor being the defense, the defendant, my friend. Our friend. They didn't. Their knowledge on cannabis. Another board member of mine. Well, a couple were there from the Cannabis Council, and we were chatting. Their knowledge is appalling. Mm-hmm. They will sit on the stand and talk like they know what they're talking about. And my 9-year-old daughter could tell you more about growing cannabis than these guys, about storing cannabis, about the effects of cannabis. Something that we talked about with the other board members, why I brought that up, I would love to do workshops. I mean, I want my police in my city that I live in to be educated about cannabis. Mm-hmm. This is scary to me. What I've seen in the last few days with these guys on the stand is scary to me. They think in their mind that it is truly something evil. They still live in this period, and I guess my brain doesn't compute like that, so their thought process is completely off. Mm-hmm. But I've noticed that, I've also noticed, I'll go as far as to say I think things are going good. It seems like the things that are being talked about now are the state really reaching. I know that everyone has testified. There's only a couple of witnesses left. That should finish up in the morning. And then hopefully final arguments, and the verdict will be not guilty. I think, I'll also add that sitting in the courtroom, see common sense in these jurors. you know, when they lay out the facts the way that they have, and it's disputed multiple times only to be proven wrong, you know, any person with any common sense has to dismiss those charges. So we will, I apologize, that's so much a teaser, but I can't, you know, for Lisa's sake, like I said, I can't go into, we can't sit here and harp. What we can do, though, is we can encourage everybody out there to talk it up. You know, Dan May, John Suthers, these people are not our friends. What I've seen in the last week is a political machine that just wants to chew you up and make money off you. They have no conscience. I've sat there and watched them tell cancer patients, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Well, you know, if you were so sorry, you wouldn't be wasting our money prosecuting their caregiver.
Exactly.
So.
Go ahead.
Well, and then when it comes to, you know, a situation which we've all heard and seen several times where these politicians actually have family members that have cancer.
Sure.
There's actually a representative of Utah, which who knows what's going to happen with Utah ever, but that his mother got has cancer and started looking into cannabis and has started the process for Utah. So
Sure.
it's only when it personally affects you that people can actually look at it. But why don't we all just kind of look outside of our own little box in our own little area to really see, oh, what is affecting somebody else? You know,
I've got a board member in a prohibitionist state with a similar story. Well, we're going to have to wrap things up, but before I forget, you need to tell us your website. I know we've said it before many times, but
It's www.c4cpr.org.
right on.
And we're also on Facebook.
And I need to mention our sponsors real quick. We got way over tonight because we got all into conversing. Yeah, our sponsors, SoCo MMJ and Dispensary, The Realm of Caring, and Green Monster Glass. You guys are all amazing. If you guys haven't been in SoCo MMJ, it's like a harborside. And Dispensary is also a great establishment to pick up your meds. Green Monster Glass is really all I use these days because, well, it's Green Monster Glass. And we talked about the Realm of Caring. If anyone you know is suffering from cancer or really any debilitating disease, don't hesitate to visit their website and get in touch with them. Next week, we're going to talk some hemp with Casper Leach and my friend Tracy from the hemp store in Manitou. And also Jason from Highland Health will be on. Talk about what it's like to run a new dispensary. And
are we going to have Platte Valley on?
We may have Platte Valley on.
I told those
should
guys.
Should we call them out right here and say we're having Platte Valley on?
Emmanuel and Brandon, they're my boys. I love my dispensary, and they're going to be on next week talking about how the law has changed since 1284. So
absolutely,
we'll
yeah.
have them give me a call.
Oh,
so we can add them to our patient program.
I am their patient relations director, so you hit the right person.
Nice. So I guess everybody. The last thing is everybody who can be at the courthouse tomorrow. I love to see a packed courtroom. It is all right. I forgot to talk about the fact they kicked us out within the first 15 minutes, and I had us all back in the courtroom within 5. So come down, and I'll stand up for your rights. I ain't scared. Till next week, Dan may go away and take John Walsh with you.
That's right.
We love you. Peace.
Bye.
Thank